Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike with another MLS updater. Today we're looking back at that 3-3 draw between the LA Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders. An exhilarating game, LA taking a 2-goal lead with a crazy cross-come shot from Vasquez to give them a 2-0 lead. Seattle came back in the second half knowing they had to completely adapt to what was happening in that first half. Took a 3-2 lead, only for a penalty to be given away in stoppage time. And Joveljic steps up and converts for 3-3. It was a big game and a big story, but one of the biggest stories leading up to that game was the new signing of Riqui Puig. The academy player from Barcelona arrived in LA, and after an hour he was introduced to the crowd and introduced to the game. He didn't give the ball away at all. Every 100% pass success rate in that game, and we got a little bit of an idea of what we can start to expect from him as he grows and develops in this LA Galaxy team. Today, I've got Ruairidh Barlow, who's going to give us a little bit more of an insight into what we can expect from Riqui Puig as a Spanish football expert. Right, so I'm here with Rory, ready to talk a bit more about Riqui Puig. Rory, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm not too bad. Thanks. How are you doing, Michael?
Yeah, very good, very good. So, tell everyone a little bit about where you write, why you're the person to ask about what to expect.
Well, to be fair, I have seen the whole Riqui Puig genesis from the very start, from Barca B and sort of through La Masia, right up to sort of his move to LA Galaxy. I'm a writer for Football España, and I write for La Liga Loden as well. So yeah, you can check out my work there if you want. But yeah, I think as I think maybe there'll be a few people that know a bit more about him than me, but not too many. So I'll do my best.
Excellent. So he came on for his debut. He got about 38 minutes this weekend. The Galaxy were trailing 3-2, and they got a quite fortunate penalty to draw the game level in the sort of stoppage time. But he got these 26 for 26 passes. He was very much involved, didn't give the ball away. Is this something that's what we should expect from him straight away? Is this ball retention a big part of his game?
It's interesting you should say that, because I think one of the things that most has irritated Barcelona fans and obviously his managers, seeing as he's not been getting a lot of game time for Barcelona, is the fact that he can be a bit unreliable with his passes. And I think Riqui Puig, he's very neat and tidy on the ball, and he has a very good grasp of where the ball should go, when it should go, about which kind of pace to give to the possession, that kind of thing. That's one of his sort of greatest skills. But during recent times for Barcelona, certainly when he's come on, and we have to bear in mind that this is a guy who's been playing 10, 15 minutes here and there over the space of months on end. So he's unlikely to be at his sharpest. But yeah, one of the things that has perhaps marked him down, especially for the likes of Xavi, is his sort of ball retention can be a little bit loose at times. And I think I'm not an expert on MLS. I think you'll take that title, Michael. But I think perhaps if he can get a little bit more time, I mean, he is coming up against sort of the top level of sort of central midfielders in Spain. You have to be sort of very much on your game. So yeah, I think if he has a little bit more time, if he's allowed to play in sort of spaces further up for the Galaxy, then that could benefit him a lot.
Yeah, he seems to be their new sort of number 10. They've been missing up front. They've got Chicharito and Joveljic, who are good, great players in the box, but it's just providing that support is what they've been looking for, and why he's been brought in, and he will play in that advanced area for them. So like you say, he's been getting sort of bits of minutes under Xavi, but not too many. Obviously was not considered necessary. Barcelona obviously having to move players around for their various financial reasons as well. But this hasn't been unique to Xavi, has it? There's been a number of managers who have, since he's made his debut, after I think reading when he came in for his debuts and as a young player, this would be the new Iniesta, but it just hasn't really worked under any managers. Is there one particular manager who actually gave him a little bit more, or has this been every manager has thought? Not sure.
Well, I think you touched on something quite important there. I think it's important to understand why Riqui Puig became such a big name amongst sort of Barcelona fans, but also sort of within the La Liga circles, and why he had so much expectation. Because Ernesto Valverde, who he made his debut under, was always kind of reluctant to play Riqui Puig and didn't really see him as an option for the first team. Granted, he had sort of Ivan Rakitic and Arturo Vidal. He had Carlos Alenia at times. He had a lot of competition for spots at that time. But it was when Quique Setien came in that he started to get a few more minutes. And there's this myth that none of his managers have trusted him. But Quique Setien did start playing him towards the end of his spell. It was sort of that extended break after COVID when we came back in the summer months. Riqui Puig was getting minutes, and he put in 2 or 3 very good performances towards the end of the season. One against Alaves in sort of, I think it was the final game of the season, and one against Atletico Madrid, where he was one of Barcelona's best players. And from there, the hype kind of really skyrocketed, as you can imagine. I mean, he was playing against Thomas Partey, Koke. He was playing against sort of very seasoned pros, and he was finding space. He was making things happen for Barcelona, and also this was a time when Barcelona were in a bit of a kind of stale, sort of a stasis as a club. Ernesto Valverde was there. He eventually left, obviously, for Setien. And not only were there sort of star signings not functioning, the likes of Ousmane Dembele, the likes of Felipe Coutinho, they weren't functioning, but there was nothing coming from the academy either. So that next player to come through was always going to have significant pressure on their shoulders. They were always going to be sort of dubbed as the new sort of next best thing because they'd been starved of their own kind of homegrown product or young or just a young player for so long.
Yeah.
And so that kind of climate really generated a lot of hype around Riqui Puig. And then when Koeman came in, that's where his kind of minutes and his impact on the team really ended.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously now there's such a there's been a sort of resurgence of the academy with the players coming in like Pedri and Gavi. So his competition got even more difficult, I guess. And was he a player that has made it clear he wanted to go and find more minutes? I know other players have. Some other young players have moved on within La Liga, I believe, from Barcelona. Is this something that he's been saying, I need to go, I want to play? Or is he a player that's been thinking for so long, I will be this Barcelona player?
Well, he's been taking the Sergio Roberto approach of kind of hanging around and hoping that eventually he'll get his shot. But as you say, yeah, players like Nico Gonzalez, Pedri, who came in from Las Palmas, and then you've got the likes of Gavi, they all kind of surpassed him fairly quickly in the pecking order. And I think to a degree, understandably, people thought that when Xavi Hernandez came in, that he would get more chances because Ronald Koeman, for whether you like him or not, he's a bit of a Marmite figure. Yeah. He took decisions, he took firm decisions, and if he didn't like you, then you weren't going to play. Yeah. And Riqui Puig was on the receiving end of that. And now it looks very much justified. But at the time, not many people really trusted in Koeman to be doing a good job. And so there was a lot of people that dismissed Koeman's judgment on him because Koeman wanted a more vertical style. He was set initially on playing a 4-2-3-1 as well, rather than a 4-3-3. And so I think a lot of people kind of took Koeman's exile of him to be more on Koeman than his judgment of a player. And that came just after the spell under Setien, where he kind of looked very good. And then when Xavi came in, it kind of deflated this balloon of narrative that had formed around Riqui Puig. And he had wanted to stay. He really sort of wanted the chance to try and make it at Barcelona, which is understandable. But ultimately, by the time this summer came around, it had looked like it had been too long that he'd been hanging on for that opportunity.
Yeah, okay. And obviously he's been quite keen. I think LA is quite a desirable place to go just for living as well as a league that's improving. And MLS is really big on having this sort of number 10 player. We have like designated players here. They get paid the extra money to bring them in. And it's a key part of the game. And having someone like him linking the play amongst the midfield into the attack, that's something that they're going to be hoping he can provide. He's quite a slight player as well. Is it going to be a case of he has to find this space and he has to get his teammates working with him and he has to build this relationship, or is he someone who can take a game, do you think, and try and dictate?
Well, we're yet to see it, to be honest. I think it will benefit him if he is going to play as a 10, as you were saying that he was at the weekend. I think that could be really useful for him because it relinquishes some of the defensive responsibility, which he struggled with, to be perfectly honest. It gives him a chance to get on the ball, take more touches, and kind of dictates sort of where the attacks will go, which is what he's good at. He does have an instinct for yeah, as I say, kind of where the pass should go, and being able to move the ball quickly. I think that's his kind of greatest talent. He does have sort of a filtered pass through a defense. So playing as a number 10 could really benefit him. I don't know if it's not something that he's really been used to at Barcelona or at the academy, because they generally get brought through in a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3, and he'll be one of the two sort of interiors on the side of a sort of pivot. So I think that role could give him a lot more kind of space and a lot more freedom to sort of roam a little bit more. And if you release him from that, then we might start to see his stance kind of put to the best use, because as an interior, he did kind of suffer a little bit with that defensive responsibility, with the fact that he was going directly up against, for instance, the like of, well, he wasn't playing against Real Madrid, but for example, the likes of Toni Kroos or Luka Modric.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like you say, that chance to roam. He picked up the ball sort of central areas, drifted a little bit left as well as a right footer. I think he's quite keen to then cut inside. He kept the ball moving very with lots of short, medium passes. There wasn't particularly any long switching passes and things like that. It's quite indicative of the Barcelona way, I guess, and what he's been brought up with playing. And that's something we should expect. It's not going to be these sweeping balls and this all of a sudden massive counterattacks. It's going to be neat and tidy.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Riqui Puig, especially the way that not only he was brought through, but especially the way that he sort of burst onto the scene in inverted commas. Barcelona were playing a lot of teams that were sitting deep against them at the time. And they kind of lacked a bit of speed of ball movement. They lacked a sort of partner for Leo Messi to try and break down these defenses at the time. And so I think if he has packed defenses in front of him, that's where he's perhaps at his best, or has a bit of a plus compared to other players. In the fact that he can sort of see the gaps in those packed defenses, break them down. If you stretch the pitch and you make the pitch bigger, then you give him the time and space to operate, but you also sort of bring in his physicality, and that's going to be a weakness for him. I mean, just based on how big he is, and he's just not the strongest. So yeah, I think if you stretch that game out and you make him run more, then that's going to be a problem for him. You won't necessarily get the best out of him. But if they do keep possession, if they hold the ball and give it to Riqui Puig in front of that defense, then that's where he'll kind of show his best, I think.
Oh, that's good. I think that's probably some of the areas we'll see. We'll see him from his sort of the bits we know about. So you mentioned how he was probably received a bit of criticism from fans. He was put under a lot of pressure after being built up so high and not quite reaching those links. He's now going to be the main man in LA Galaxy to a degree. With this is a huge signing. How do you think he's going to be able to cope with that as a player? Has he shown quite sort of good mentality to just be confident in himself despite what's happened?
It's interesting you should say that. I think initially Riqui Puig was kind of very professional, very hardworking, especially when he came into the team. But there is an image of him as being a bit of a pijo, so like a bit posh, a bit cool. He came from money as a kid,
Okay.
and he was kind of seen as the golden child in Barcelona, kind of thing. And certainly towards the latter days, there were reports, and I can't substantiate them myself, but there were reports that he was spending a lot of time with Gerard Piqué, that they were maybe enjoying the nightlife a little bit more, which is not great for Piqué, but Piqué is he's 34 and he's won literally everything he possibly can in the game. He's a made player. Riqui Puig is not that player. He doesn't have the credit in the bank to say, well, my performances are still good. Yeah. So towards the end, I think his professionalism did come under a bit of scrutiny. I think he's at a bit of a crossroads with LA Galaxy. And I think if moving abroad is a massive step, I think LA has probably as many distractions as you could possibly want, but it also is a maturing sort of process moving abroad. Especially, don't think he's got any of his friends with him. I think he'll be on his own. He'll be thrust into a different environment to what he's used to. And so if he sinks or swims, that's obviously the big question. But I think it could be a chance for him to get his head down, to realize that there's the only way that out of sort of this malaise that he's been in is hard work. And yeah, taking on responsibility, something that he's not really been given for quite a few years. And it is very hard if you're in a working situation where for 2 years you've been told you're not trusted, that you're not useful. And so he's at a crossroads and he's going to have to knuckle down. But all the ingredients are there, I think, for him to start becoming the player that people thought he maybe would be at 18. And part of the issue with Riqui Puig is the fact that when he burst onto the scene, he had those sort of glimpses of magic. He had the really good stuff, and he obviously had deficits, but he was 18, 19. So you don't question it too much because you think that will come later. He's not quite developed in the way that people had hoped. And so if we do get that development, if he starts to now add those bits and bobs to his game that he was missing, then yeah, I think we could see him develop quite a bit at the Galaxy.
And is there any thoughts in Spain that this could be he could be back at some point, or is he a player that it seems that the country and the league itself has said, well, good luck, we'll see? Like,
I think most people think that this is perhaps it for Riqui Puig at the top level. Wherever he comes back at some point, I don't know. It will obviously sort of depend on how well he does, but certainly he was a polarizing figure, and a lot of people within sort of the Barcelona camp really liked him. But beyond that, I think more people sort of had a dismissive attitude towards him. They saw him as that kind of golden boy who'd been treated well, but never really done anything to deserve that kind of preferential treatment or even sort of the hype around him. And so I think within Spain, there's certainly an attitude of, well, goodbye, and yeah, don't come back in a hurry kind of thing.
Okay, well, hopefully for the LA Galaxy, then you can probably sort of enjoy this part of being the big name and the excitement that's come around. And for the league, that's changing. There's a lot of players are coming in at younger ages now. Obviously, we've got Bale and Chiellini in LA on the opposing sides at their other end of their career. But yeah, there's a lot of excitement about it, and to have a player from sort of Barcelona at a young age come in and to show a little bit of some flashes, at least in this short debut. We'll have to see where he comes. But Rory, thank you so much for your help with today. Just getting to know everyone. If you can let us know where to follow you on Twitter and things like that, just so everyone can check you out for a bit more Spanish news.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Michael. You can follow me on Twitter at Ruairidh Barlow, Ruairidh spelled Ruri. And yeah, you can find my work on Football España, which is just at Football España /.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So there we go. An interesting chat about Riqui Puig. Seems that being maybe pushed up into that number 10 role, having a little bit more license to be creative, may benefit him as well as the LA Galaxy. And after a tough time in Barcelona in recent years, it'll be great to see how he gets on again with a lot of expectation on his shoulders. But to see how he can adapt to the league and how he can get used to this new system and this new team of players, and see how his career in MLS goes. Thanks again to Ruairidh Barlow. Please follow him on Twitter, as well as myself, Mike Rice 1983, and MLS Updater. Please hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to bringing you more information soon. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.